You know that person. The one everyone gravitates toward at a party. The one whose stories pull you in. The one you'd listen to for hours. You walk away from them feeling more alive. What do they have that most people don't? Interesting people are not born interesting. They're built through a specific set of habits, choices, and orientations toward the world that make them, over time, genuinely fascinating to be around. And the beautiful thing is, every single habit I'm about to share is available to you, right now, regardless of your background, your personality type, your introversion, or how ordinary you think your life is. I'm your host at Vibe Guide Tales, and today we're breaking down the 7 habits of the most interesting people you'll ever meet. They are genuinely curious, not performatively curious. There's a difference between asking questions to seem engaged and asking questions because you're actually fascinated. The most interesting people you'll ever meet are pathologically curious. They want to understand how everything works. They ask follow-up questions. They remember details from conversations weeks later and bring them up. They read about things no one is making them read about. They watch documentaries on subjects completely unrelated to their work or daily life. This curiosity is not a tool. It's a way of being. And it makes them extraordinary conversationalists because their interest is real and people feel the difference. They collect experiences more than things. Interesting people have stories because they seek experiences, not just comfortable ones. They've tried things that scared them. They've traveled in ways that required discomfort. They've had jobs they didn't expect. Relationships that taught them something hard. Conversations with strangers that stayed with them for years. Research on memory and narrative confirms that people who prioritize experiences over possessions develop richer internal autobiographies. More stories, more texture, more self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is the raw material of interesting. They have actual opinions. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most people don't actually have opinions. They have positions borrowed from their tribe, their social circle, or their most recent media consumption. Challenge those positions, and they crumble. Interesting people have earned their opinions through genuine thinking. They've read both sides. They've held a belief and updated it when confronted with better evidence. They can tell you not just what they think, but why. And they can do so without getting defensive. This makes disagreeing with them a pleasure rather than a threat. And that level of intellectual security is magnetic. They pursue mastery in something unexpected. Every truly interesting person has at least one thing they're exceptionally good at that nobody expects. A surgeon who's also a jazz pianist. An accountant who's a competitive rock climber. A stay-at-home parent who's a published poet. These unexpected areas of depth create the kind of three-dimensionality that makes people genuinely interesting. They give them stories, skills, and a way of seeing the world that is entirely their own. The key word is mastery, not dabbling. They've gone deep, and depth in any direction creates fascinating human beings. They are comfortable with not knowing. The least interesting people in any room are usually the ones who feel compelled to have an answer for everything, who can't say, I don't know, who translate uncertainty into defensiveness. Interesting people are comfortable inhabiting questions. They say, I don't know, but I'd love to find out, and mean it. They hold ambiguity with curiosity rather than anxiety. This intellectual humility, the genuine recognition that there's more to know than anyone can know, makes them endlessly learnable and endlessly interesting. They listen like it matters. In a world where everyone is formulating their next response while the other person is still speaking, people who actually listen are staggering. And the most interesting people are almost universally extraordinary listeners. They make eye contact. They let silences breathe without rushing to fill them. They ask follow-up questions that reveal they were actually tracking what you said. They reflect your words back to you in ways that show genuine comprehension. The paradox of listening. The people who listen the most carefully are perceived as the most interesting, even when they say very little. Being truly heard is so rare that the person who provides it becomes unforgettable. They are willing to be changed by what they encounter. This is the ultimate habit. The most interesting people don't just encounter new ideas, experiences, and people. They allow those encounters to change them. They're not protecting a fixed identity. They're in a constant state of becoming. You can see it in the way they talk about themselves. I used to think this, but then I met someone who showed me something different. I was completely wrong about this for years until I read this book. That conversation changed how I see everything. This porousness to influence, this willingness to be shaped by life rather than defended against it, is what makes people genuinely interesting across decades. They're always someone new, always somewhere different, always growing. Here's the good news. You don't have to be born interesting. You become it. One book, one experience, one real conversation, one opinion hard-earned, one moment of genuine listening at a time. Pick one of these habits. Practice it deliberately for the next 30 days. And watch what happens to your conversations, your relationships, and your own sense of who you are. Comment below. Which habit do you already have? And which one do you most want to develop? Let me know. Like, subscribe, and join Vibe Guide Tales every week. See you in the next one.